Awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Coaches, welcome to our BSN Sports Football webinar. And Coach Fitch, the man, the myth, the legend himself, TCU's finest, baby. Coach, it's good to have you here on board with us today. We appreciate you jumping on. Jason Phillips has nothing but great words to say about you, so we appreciate you jumping on here to talk a little bit of recruiting with us.
No doubt. I would hope Jason Phillips had a lot of great things to say about me. All I did was just keep offensive linemen off of him pretty much his whole career, especially as a redshirt freshman being moved to fullback. So I'm still keeping guys all of them. Just really want to say before I start, um, just a big shout out to you guys at BSN Sports, being a former Texas high school coach, and I still look at myself as that. Uh, to be able to, it's a lot of people that say that they're out here for the kids and they're working for the kids, but this is something as a high school coach that I would have loved to be a part of, because not only are the parents and coaches are hearing it from guys that they hear it every day, but actually hearing it from a coach on our side of it. I think it just gives more intel and detail how we look at things, and hopefully this helps out in every kind of way.
Awesome. Well, we really, really greatly appreciate that. It's people like you that make our job easy. So we really appreciate what you do for the kids, growing the kids, making them successful young adults, and maturing them and getting them out ready for the real world. So again, we appreciate you and your knowledge here today. I'm excited about
Yes.
this because this is a topic I think that everyone should especially listen to, hone in on, because recruiting now has especially become real big since the portal now
Yes.
has the NCAA and the portal rules have kind of changed us going through. So what we're going to do today, everyone, is I'm just going to ask Coach some questions, and we're going to keep it rolling. And if you have some questions, please throw them in the chat, and then
Okay.
we'll answer those questions for you as well. But I do have some pre-written questions that we've gotten from other coaches that want to know, the 101 on recruiting. So, Coach, if you don't mind, I'm gonna go ahead and start asking you a few questions. We'll start off with the easy ones first, and
Oh, that's fine. Let's go. Let's do it.
yeah, let us know your thoughts and opinions, because I know we value them, especially from the level that you're at right now. So,
I'm excited about that. Nobody ever wants to listen to the D line coach, but if
hey,
they ever will, we're some of the most innovative, creative guys on the staff.
one
So
hundred
I'm
percent.
looking forward to it.
100%. I used to be a defensive line equipment manager when I was at the University of
Yes.
Southern Mississippi. So I loved you guys. You guys are awesome. Deke Adams is a really great friend of mine, and he's one of the coaches that I
Awesome.
got to watch and listen to. So um,
Great.
here, so the first question here is how can coaches help their players become the type of recruit they will be that will be perfect recruit if you had one?
Well, I would start off by the coach is always going to be the front runner, or the prototype, where this young man is going to want to watch him, see how he is as a husband, see how he is as a father. But what you want to instill in those young men are the valuable things that we look at, and especially at Texas Tech, is what kind of person are you?
Right.
And that's the fun part of it. What kind of person are you creating in your program? See, right now, and big shout out to DeSoto High School. I was supposed to go back to my hotel, and I knew I wasn't going to make it for here. So I'm literally at the home of the back-to-back state champions, the greatest show on turf, right now at
Oh, that's
DeSoto
awesome.
High School, and just talking to those guys. Well, what you want to do, and before we ever get to know our guys, one of the unique things that I'm gonna state, because you have to see that Texas Tech, we run our program totally different than a lot of people in the country. And so I want you to understand the format that I'm gonna give you. So at Texas Tech, we run our recruiting. We have a general manager. This is literally like the NFL prototype. Um, what we do is our management and our GM James Blanchard, who's one of the best of the best. What he does is he finds young men that fit what we look at as a football player, but he also finds a young man that we look for as a person that we want to be on our campus, to be around our families, and to represent our university at Texas Tech. And he does an unbelievable job. And I came up with some great stats last night. So what I tell guys, when you want to make your guy, you know, pretty much a recruitable athlete, first thing is going to always start with grades. I can't recruit you if you don't have the grades. And that's really about your core classes. You're having a 2.5 at the least, and your core classes by your junior year. That's really big. You have to graduate and have that 2.5. The next thing is that most of the people they're going to recruit you off of your film first. Then they develop a relationship with you. But one thing I love about film, if I'm a high school coach and I'm creating a highlight tape, you got to understand when our guys or other guys at different universities, when they watch those highlight tapes, they're probably watching about hundreds of kids that day. All right. So I want to make sure those top plays are in the front of that, in front of that highlight tape. You following me, Zach?
Yes, sir.
I want to make sure it's just like when you're starting a public speech. You want to start off with attention getters. This is
Exactly.
not the 10-yard catch. These are the touchdowns. These are the big plays on defense, the interceptions. You want to keep that film running and continue to grab that, that attention of whoever's watching it. I see guys, they want to do it game by game. Well, take the extra time out and make sure that that film is continuing getting watched and you're putting the top plays at the beginning. And then, really monitor and talk about the importance of their social media accounts. I know we're going to get more into it, but it becomes a really big deal when you talk about NIL and on and on and on and different things of that nature. Uh, you want to make sure that whatever you're putting out or you're supporting, it's a true representation of yourself. That's it, pretty much in a nutshell.
Awesome. Now, speaking of the coaches, what would what can they talk to as far as parents? Some of these coaches are parents. So what would you
Yeah,
say, could parents do in their role to prepare their kids for becoming a D1 athlete?
I would say first thing as a parent, support the coaching staff. And I know that sounds cliche, but I didn't been on both sides of it. My son right now is a basketball player in Mahale High School, a senior, and I'm doing the recruiting process. But I want the coaches to know that I'm supporting them. Even though I'm a coach, no, not in that instance. I'm a parent. And what I tell parents first is support the coaches.
Yeah.
You know, parents, what I tell them, what your role is that really listen and follow the directions of the coaching staff, because when you look at it, it's going to be a lot of situations where everything is going to run through the coach. And when you get into that now, when you talk about, having that relationship where y'all can have open bases, when that's going to camps, what's the correct camps to go to, um, being a person where your social media is literally a free platform for you, being able to post, and for multiple accounts. I have parents that talk to me when they're over recruiting age from their Twitter accounts, from their kids' Twitter accounts. um, I would just ask the parents to be really supportive, but there's also a breaking point in there where you have to let the coaches, be coaches.
Right, exactly, and I totally agree with you in that. And speaking of social media platforms,
Yes.
what role does social media platforms play in today's college football recruitment process?
Well, most of the time, my first contact with an eligible recruit is going to be usually on social media. So, having a social media, one of the big things that we use is Twitter.
Yep.
Uh, but it's going to be that's usually like the first contact is usually going to be on Twitter, where now you're getting more information, getting the numbers, and now you start building that relationship. But again, like I mentioned before I know you, your Twitter, your pages, your Instagram, those are going to be straight representations of you. And now it even goes to a bigger picture when you're talking about NIL. It's different companies that come in and want to represent young men. And I tell them, like, you have to be very, very careful and be very, very selective of the things you say, and the people that you support. And I give situations. I literally just came out of a school today when I was telling guys, you can be a person that supports someone, but you got to really go down their page, because when you retweet them, you're endorsing them.
Exactly.
and just being really careful. You know, I had a young man that was with me last year that's going to have an opportunity to play in the NFL. Well, one of his NIL deals was with a dentist, one of the local dentists. So I was talking to another young man that had a mask on, and you could literally see his eyes. And I said, "You don't think this is a big deal?" I said, "One of my guys literally has an NIL deal with the dentistry. I can't see your teeth." And he started laughing, but they're kids. And
Exactly. They
that's
don't
why
know.
you have the coaches. That's why you have the parents here is that. It's for us to navigate them and try to show them the right way.
Yeah, absolutely, and I totally agree with you that because I mean, certain coaches, they even look at what you like on social media.
Yes,
I mean, if it's
yes.
derogatory, then some coaches just throw them out the door, right?
No, no doubt. I mean, it's just one click. I can see who you like, what schools you like. I can see everything that you're doing, and literally just being aware of it. I think when you're young and you're in the age of recruiting, you're excited, but just understanding and aware that, and it's doing a new day and age of recruiting, and it is a new day, and it's a new day for college coaches. We're adapting as we speak, and that's why this is so important for you, what we're doing right now. We're
Absolutely.
adapting.
Yeah,
And it was so on every stage, everybody's pretty much working together to find out, what's those little entities that can help their kids get recruited. And that's why I'm excited to be here.
absolutely. And again, we're excited to have you. And
Yes,
speaking
sir.
of change and speaking of adapting, I know the last couple of years has probably been a whirlwind of adaptation, right? Especially with the NIL. So I want to ask you a couple questions on that, if you don't mind.
Yes. No
With
problem.
all the recent NIL changes and transfer portal changes, what are the biggest differences that you see both in the overall recruiting process and the factors that go into deciding or on whether or not you're going to offer a scholarship to a kid?
Well, I'm going to get into that, but I want to make the number one thing that I'm seeing right now in the recruiting process is that it's a lot of high school players that's really good players that are going to schools that you'll look up and you probably would have had a grade of them going to a division or a conference or to a school that a higher caliber. So what I'm seeing right now is that the high school players, um, they have to be really, really aware of the recruiting process. And like when I reach out to high school guys, I just tell them that in this day and age in recruiting, you need to find a place that you love. Visit the place, go visit places. But when you have your mind made up, you need to go to that school.
Yep.
And because, with that scholarship offer, if you don't have a great relationship with that coaching staff, or your coaches don't have a great relationship with your high school coaches that have a pretty much open conversation, that scholarship can be gone, and now that can be given to a kid that's coming out of the portal. What I'm seeing is you're gonna see everybody has to take a look at the portal. Everybody. It's going to be certain programs that want to build their program through the portal, and it's going to be certain programs that will recruit out of the portal, but they're going to still build from ground up through the high school players. And I think that's what we do a great job at Texas Tech of doing.
Yeah,
Um,
you guys definitely do a great job for sure.
yes, sir.
Yeah,
So I,
speaking of that, what is the impact of the transfer portal on the college football recruiting landscape? What's your thoughts and opinions on that?
oh, oh man, I think
We can
it's a
go all
huge
day on that,
impact.
can't we?
I mean, literally all day. And, you know, it's a thing where you look at the transfer portal, and I come from just a different age.
Oh, yeah.
Playing under Gary Patterson, and being a guy that you that wanted to develop. I think the transfer portal, what I'm seeing out of it right now, is guys that's impatient. You know, with the recruiting and the mindset of the high school player right now. is that, you're getting recruited and you want to get the field so much and you have a following and you have a base behind you and you want to go play, but it's still a development there. And I feel like, guys just have to be honest with themselves and ask themselves, you know, do I allow myself to be developed or now do I get in the portal? And I think that's a whole nother. And then you have guys that, that are on levels that, that then really played and did a good job. And they feel like they were overlooked and they want that opportunity to play at a bigger university and to help themselves be looked at for the next level. So I think it's two different kids that get in the portal, and you know, you're just seeing it work through right now. But it is a big thing that's actually taking over college football.
Oh yeah, you definitely, 'cause I remember back in the day, if you wanted to transfer, you had to go a lower level, JUCO
Yes,
route or Division 2, Division 3, so you don't get any years knocked out of you. So
yeah.
kids
Or
these
you
days,
lost that year
yeah, you
if
lost a
you
year.
or you lost it. Yeah.
So it's definitely changed, and a lot of folks have different opinions on it. And I was kind of wanting to see what your opinion was on that. So, and speaking of it, how do you feel that colleges and universities are adapting to this change in recruiting, the recruiting environment in general?
Well, I think everybody is. I think when you look at, any schools right now, you start to see the collectives being, formed to help with, the NIL and different things of that nature. I think that's how they're adapting.
Right.
One of the things at Texas Tech, our Matador Club, it literally has where every one of our student athletes get NIL, and one of the first universities to do that. So I see it all over. What's going to be funny and not funny, because I tell these high school coaches all the time, it's it's going to soon come to those guys too. And I got to
Oh
get their
yeah.
eyebrows up, but I see it definitely just passing Oklahoma where I'm from. Definitely see it being passed on this level, on the high school level.
Awesome. Well, that's some great information to know, because a lot of folks don't really see the inside and outs of it. They just hear
Yeah,
what's on social media, right? So it's good to hear that from you, coming from you. So speaking of coaches on here, we have several coaches on here that have young kids in their programs, wanting to develop them and build them into a D1 athlete. So I have a couple questions on some advice that you would give them to preach them and teach them how to get their kids ready. So what advice can you give to high school coaches on how they can help you as a coach when it comes to recruiting their players?
oh wow. Oh, that's a big range. Oh man. If
Take your
if
time. Take your time.
so how I would look at that is, what advice is the coach giving the young man on how I should be able to recruit him?
Yeah, yeah. So what advice can you give high school coaches on how they can help you as a coach when it comes to recruiting their players? So what can they do to help you
Yes.
kind of get their kid into the next step or the next level in the
Yes,
collegiate
okay.
market?
Thank you, Zach.
Yep,
The
absolutely.
first thing is being available. You
Okay.
know, when we have these times of the year where we're on a roll, being able to contact coaches, and coming to their buildings, and being able to sit down with them and having lengthy conversations on really getting to know them. No, nobody knows your players better than the coaches and their parents. So being able to, be available where we come in. These guys in Texas and this state do a really good job about it, letting us in, as you can see today. Um, but I think that's the one thing, is like being available where we can contact you, we can have questions, and coaches. It's a big fraternity.
Yep.
Guys love their kids. They always make it for us, but that's one of the big things. Second is just having things already in place. Having a prospect sheet with the guys' informations, with their social medias, their cell phone numbers, their parents' numbers. Things that you'll get pretty much at the first football meeting. Having that on the prospect sheet. Having their transcripts available where, when we call, we can be able to get their transcripts, be able to get it to our staff, and so they can be evaluated, so it can be looked through. That especially becomes a big deal of understanding that it could be a kid, that could be a midterm kid that's becoming really popular now. Um, to get a kid be able to graduate early, sign in
Mhm.
December, and have them on your campus in January. Those are some of the really big things that just jump straight out the mind for me. Um, but again, these high school coaches, I mean, these coaches are well prepared for it.
Awesome. Yeah, that was another question here is, what advice can you give high school coaches, what they can they expect when it comes to getting their players, getting them ready to be recruited? And you hit the nail on the hammer with a lot of those answers there. Make sure you have the spec sheet ready. I think that's one of the first and foremost things to have going. So that is some great advice that you're giving us there now. So another question on what to kind of expect whenever it comes to recruiting is, what advice do you have for a kid who is currently getting recruited? Like specific questions to ask, what relationships to focus on when you're in the
Yes.
building. What are your thoughts and opinions? That way you can reciprocate it to the coach and he knows, the right things to tell the athlete.
Oh, man, I love this right now because this is literally things that I get to tell kids when I'm in their buildings all the time. But I always tell guys, and this is pretty much the format I had. You want to pick 5 things, and some people have a bigger list, but you want to pick some things that's really important to you. And you want to take that list to you to every visit, and you want to be able to do the pros and cons or check off different things. Some of those things. Does this school have my major? You know, does this coaching staff look like they have longevity here? Is this a place that I can see myself fitting in and spending, you know, 4 to 5 years of my life at?
Yep.
Whatever those cases may be, but whatever's important to you, I want you to go into every university, every college that you go to, and ask yourself, who and how are these guys matching up with those 5 things that's important to me and my family everywhere we go? And
Right.
and that's going to be just based off of what that individual wants. But that's something I carried in to help me make my college decision. One of those things was the relationship with the head coach, and that what ultimately made me choose TCU at the time.
That's all. Yeah, it's all about building that relationship. That's what
Yes,
I'm getting from it. I mean, if once you go in there and you feel welcomed, I've heard
yes,
that from one of the athletes. If you feel welcomed and loved, that's another great thing too. So great
and
hit
that's
points there.
and literally, and that's what I love about it. If you don't know our head coach, Joy McGuire,
Yeah.
that's one thing that
Yep.
you're gonna feel at home, and you want a coach that has authentic, genuine love for you.
Yep.
That separates us with a lot of universities.
Yep, I agree with you 110%. Man, this is coaches, if you're not sending me questions right now in chat, you're missing out. This guy, this is great information. And coach, I do happen to have a couple questions here that was sent to me in the chat
No
directly. And
problem.
I just want to go ahead and answer these and get these
Yes,
while
let's
we're
do it.
talking. Um, this was going back on the previous topic. What
Okay.
is a critical deciding factor when considering a high school player over a portal player for a scholarship?
Man, that's really good.
That's a tough
The
one. Sorry to
I'll
throw that
tell you
on
that
you.
that's a really good question. Whoever did that, hey, 2 claps. All right. What you want to see? That's what we do in our D-line room. But I think the what you it's going to be a need with your program at the time, and that's going to be individually based, and it's going to be based off of that university or that college. And what you're seeing is like if if it's a true need at that position, guys are going to more likely tend to, or they need a true impact need there. Where if it's the case of young guys developing, they're going to end up going towards more of the transfer portal because that allows to have an older guy that then played in multiple games, in front of big crowds that have been in those situations that you can come and try to impact it right now with an older guy. I think that's one of the big things that come into it when you're looking at the transfer portal and saying, Do I do I have a guy right now that I can turn around and I can take a high school guy because this guy I know he can play, and this kid I can see him having a big future. So when you have that in place, where just look at us at Texas Tech last year. I had two guys that started for us forever. So you looked at it. I didn't have to, take a portal guy. And so you looked at it and said, okay, now I have my young guys where I can get those guys, I can mold them because I have some guys in place.
Right.
Now those guys leave. So it's gonna be based off year by year. Those
Yeah.
guys
Yeah.
leave. And I still have some young guys that I'm looking at, and I'm James Blanchard and Brian Nance. Those guys have done an unbelievable job. Shine and Jake, where I'm saying, okay, I'm gonna get a portal guy or two portal guys, but they only have 1 year left.
Right.
So
To fill the
it
gap.
goes,
Right.
you see, so they only have 1 year left. So what I'm doing is I'm able to develop my young guys where they are my future starters. And then when that happens, you're gonna see guys more tuned to start taking more high school guys. So it's gonna be
Awesome.
just based off of that university and what need they have or what they have at that program at the time.
Right. Do they need an immediate need, or do they need, or they
Yes.
set and they're able to transform a guy, or build a guy, which makes total
All
sense.
the way, Zach. All the way.
Yep, 100% makes total sense. So next question, and if you don't mind, I've just got some coaches actually throwing in some questions. So this is
Man,
great
let's
stuff
let's
here.
do it.
So
Let's do it.
and it's hitting on different topics. But coach, what's your
Okay.
opinion on satellite camps versus individual school invite camps?
Hey, I'm telling you, man, I love it when coaches ask questions. Because nobody wants to listen to the fat D line coach, but I get to get it off my chest.
Bring it on.
Okay. I this is my standpoint on it, and this is my standpoint with my son. All right. I always tell them that you want to pick one satellite camp. Okay. You want to pick one. You want to pick one satellite camp where it has multiple divisions, multiple levels of college football that's there. Just one. All right. Because now you opening yourself to a lot of different camps. You don't want to go to a lot of satellite camps because you don't want to end up being just where you're giving a donation.
Right.
All right. And then I tell guys that now when you're looking at true camps where it's at the university or a place that you like, you want to go to the camps that guys are showing interest to you, or you want to go to a camp that you are interested in the school. And you got to be really careful about how you pick them and when you pick them. Right now with everything starting a lot earlier, by guys junior year, you really don't want them in camps because they're taking official visits now
Right.
when they go into that spring. So you really want guys to start taking to go into camps really when they're coming out of the eighth grade, ninth grade, 10th grade year. And if they're not happy with their offers at the time, you still want them to do it. But it's a fine line of how far you start taking that into, so you won't run into your senior season.
Right.
You know, I'm really against camps that's in July. You know,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
but I would tell guys, you don't really do more than one, you know, big satellite camp. That you just want to be able to show yourself to different levels of coaches. I think that's always a great because you get to, let different people get intel about you. But then the real focus has to be on who's showing interest to you and what school are you wanting interest from, and then picking those schools to go to the camps. Man, I hope I answered Coach's question, but I always, that's one of the big ones right there.
I think you hit the nail with a hammer on that, coach. I mean,
Yeah.
different strokes for different folks, but that was perfect answer right there. We really appreciate that. I got another
Thank you.
question. If anybody has any more questions, please throw it in. This is the last one right now in the chat. I know we only got about 10 more minutes here, but coach, he said thank you for answering his question. Thank you very
No
much.
problem.
Um, got looked at two questions now. So what questions should we teach our players to make sure they ask the coaches who are recruiting them during the recruiting process? What's the most important information they need to learn before they make that decision?
Oh, okay. I think this is a couple of different things I want to hit on this.
Okay.
Okay. Um, so what I'm getting from the understanding from the question is when they're talking to the coach that has offered them or recruiting them.
Recruiting them. That's
Okay.
recruiting them. Yep.
I would say first thing is when you're getting recruited, I would always I'm a big believer in asking how many people are going to be taking in my position.
Okay.
Like some coaches don't like that. They be like, oh, I want guys that want to compete. But it's totally different now when you're thinking about how many scholarships and those scholarships being between high school transfer guys.
Right.
I think there has to be an open conversation with the coach, the student athlete, the parents, and the high school coach. I think everybody has to be on page in that. But this is how many guys that we're taking. And I'm a big believer in, hey, this is how many guys are taking. And then also when a guy commits, all right, this is how many guys I could take now.
Right. Because
But
essentially you want to know who you're competing against, right?
exactly. And you want to know if this is still an option for me
Right.
because you don't want to ignore another option and this is no longer an option for me because they have filled up at that position that they're going to be taking. And that's why I always tell people, and one thing I love about a head coach is that when we offer a young man, that head coach is also called and told that we are offering.
Right.
You know,
Okay.
I'm not a firm believer, and this is when the D-line coaches are coming out of them. I'm not a firm believer that you offer a young man and his coaches don't know how serious is that offer.
Right.
And I think that got lost in there with COVID or whatever. And I'm not going to make an excuse for any other university or any other program, but doing it the right way where everybody knows that this is an offer. And if
Right.
what kind of offer is it? You know, it's certain people that they're going to offer you, but is it an offer to come to camp? Hey, is it a is this a committable offer? You know,
Right.
those
Is it?
are things. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I
Being
get it.
that, attention to detail in the conversations when you're talking about a young man's future.
Yeah.
That's the things that you don't want to lose in this and in our profession. And social media has made that something that I'm not too fond of. You can offer a kid on Twitter, but you can't call his coach and let the coach know that it's an offer. How serious can I take that offer?
Right. Do you feel that certain kids misinterpret the offer like, "Hey, I want to offer you to come walk on at our school," or "I want to offer you a great
Yes.
shirt." Do you feel that sometimes that's misinterpreted from some of these
Yeah.
recruits?
Well, if it's what that? Look, all right. If it's misinterpreted, we talking about adults,
Right.
and these
Yep.
are young men. That's why the adults around the young man have to make sure they know the situation so it
Correct.
won't get misinterpreted.
Right.
And that's when we have to be adults and we have to make sure it's clear statements, it's a clear understanding on what's being offered.
Right.
That's where we come into play. I tell guys right now, it's always this big thing about, oh, I got another offer, oh, I got another offer, I got another offer. The thing has to be what's important is not pushing about how many offers you get, but understanding it's going to only be a few high school kids that can wait until signing day.
Right.
And they need to be, when you get an offer, they need to be looking at those universities and pinpoint them where this is a place that I want to be and not about how many you get because you only can go to one school. It's
Right.
not about how many you can get. It's about finding that school and being comfortable saying, I want to be a part of that program.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. Great response there, coach. I really appreciate you
Yes, sir.
answering that. So I got one more for you. This is a two-part question from a
One
coach.
more. Let's get some more. One
Yeah.
more. I need
And
20
then
more.
we'll get you off here. I know you're busy. Again, we appreciate everything that you do for us and for
My
answering the questions for the
Zach,
coaches.
I can go as long as you want me. My head coach knows exactly where I'm at. I'm right here. right in the heartland of Texas right now, down the I-20 corridor. I can go hit as many
Ah,
schools as possible after this.
awesome. Well, that's why we love you. Yeah, I love my D
Yeah,
line coaches. You know, I'd
yeah,
always would always eat jelly beans together. So
no
that was a
doubt,
good time. So,
no
um,
doubt.
I got a question for you from Coach Basil here. Many of our
Okay.
parents think their son is a D1 athlete. What physical measurables uh, do we tell them that their son must reach in order to be considered as a D1 athlete or football player?
Ooh, man, great question. Every parent is gonna think highly of their child.
Yeah,
I think highly of my kids too. The thing is that that's a parent. That's a parent being a parent. But the fun thing about us is that we will tell you that your son is a Division I caliber athlete. I'm telling you something right now, Zach, that I thought was awesome. The top 7 kids that I'm recruiting in my position right now,
yep,
top 7 kids, Texas Tech, we were their first offer. The
okay,
other 2, we were their second offer, literally their second offer, but we was their Power 5 offer. And those kids are getting offered early. So I tell, you know, every parent is going to say, hey, this is what we need. This is, I feel like my kid, or they trying to live through their kids, or whatever the case may be. I didn't see it all. It's not a certain measure because each position is going to be different. Everybody's going to have that prototype that you see it. I tell parents that that's not going to be their decision, no matter how much they think. You
right,
know, that is going to be in the eye of the beholder at that university or that coach, or if you see with us with James Blanchard and James Nance,
yep,
those guys are going to be the ones that make the decisions. So, with each position, there's going to be certain measurables to answer coaches' questions. There's going to be certain things that they're going to want to, height wise, speed wise, agility, different things of that nature. Um, you know, I love multi sports kids. Every
right,
coach
yep,
has, what they do. Now, I tell people now when I talk about multi sport kid, you can't be a starter on varsity football and then be a guy that's not a contributor on JV basketball. In
makes
that
sense.
case, I think you if you're the starter on there and you're looking at college, you need to start putting money in the bank and start developing yourself into what you're really good at. Now, if it's
Right,
a guy that's, you know, starter and that's on football and playing or starting in basketball, let that kid be special, and let that kid, be able to reach where, because he might have different options with whatever sport that may be, and baseball, vice versa. But one of the things, and I had those parents,
yeah, of
I
course,
had those parents, and you know, you know, again, every parent is going to think so highly of coach, but it's not the high school coach that's going to make those decisions. And I've been in those situations. With social media, you cannot hide a kid from us. We are going to find that kid. We are going to call the high school coach, but you cannot hide a kid in this day and age. It's not where somebody can go turn a rock in some small town and it's a kid and they only know about it. We're all going to know about it.
gotcha.
And so I tell parents, let the colleges be the ones that, make those decisions, because the offers that he's getting is usually what is perceived as what level he's going to be going to.
Exactly. Yeah, I
Yes.
100% agree with you there. And bouncing off that question, he had another one on it. Is the high
Mhm.
school head coach still the one who you lean on the most when deciding whether his players are qualified next level players in all areas?
Has to be.
Okay.
Has to be. Especially in our state. That's the first call. That is going to be the first call. We're going to do it through the high school coach. You got to look at our staff, Zach. I mean,
Yep.
we got 7 to 8 former Texas high school coaches on our staff.
Hmm.
Like, that tells it all right there. You know,
Exactly.
these
Exactly.
we have sat at that table and we have, been in that position. And our head coach did it at the highest level at Cedar Hill. So we understand that going through the coach, is going to always be our number one priority. Now, I'm going to tell you, with this day and age, that's one of the fun things about recruiting is because the first thing I'm trying to find out is who is the decision maker. That's literally is that mom, is that dad, is that brother?
Right.
Who is the decision maker? Who's going to be the key to helping me get the young man that I'm recruiting? So, but that's who I want to see. Who has that relationship? Because I want to show them the person I am just as much as I want to show them the young
Exactly.
man.
Oh yeah, I know exactly what you mean. We got one more question. Thanks, Josh, for throwing this up here. Let me pull this question up. Strength and conditioning wise, what or
Mhm.
where do you expect athletes you're recruiting to be? Do you like to see a guy that is consistent in the weight room?
Yes, you gotta. There's certain things that when people say, "I love recruiting kids that love playing football," and one of the things that playing football consists of is guys that lift weights. I love it. You go to any school here, I'm fortunate enough that I get to recruit, you know, each each team that's represented in the higher levels of Texas high school football state championships. Guys that anybody that played in those state championships, usually I am recruiting both of those schools. And one of the most consistent things at those schools is that they lift weights. They
Yeah.
lift weights. But one of the other things, and it's more not about strength and conditioning, track,
Oh, of course.
track.
Yes.
I, people that are strength and conditioning, I'm thinking of track. The other thing that I tell kids, and I always want them to understand, is that the biggest problem I see is guys want to get bigger in high school. Well, with the strength and conditioning, it's okay to get stronger, but it's also a fine line about putting on the right weight.
Right.
You know,
Yep.
I tell people you got offered at a certain size. You don't want to put on bad weight because that's when you see the injuries, or that's when you see a lack of productivity, or that student athlete is not performing at the same level. I tell
Exactly.
them, don't worry about that. That's why these universities have full-time nutritionists. Miss Hannah does a great job for us. That's why we have a strength and conditioning coach, Lance Barlow. When I get you here, that's their job, and I
Exactly.
trust them completely to do it. So I tell players, if you get an offer at a certain weight and you have caught people's eye, it's okay. If you feel like you need to be able to gain weight, that's okay. But making sure you're putting on the right weight that you still can be the same player that you are and have been.
Oh, exactly. I remember being out there on that practice field and some of those strength coaches, we got to get rid of this bad weight, guys. Got to get rid of
Yeah,
this bad
yeah,
weight. It's a
yeah, yeah.
it's a
Now,
true it's a real
now,
thing.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I've been fat my whole life, and I've been a part of those conversations a long time.
Hey,
But
big
hey,
bone is beautiful, brother. Big
hey,
bone is
that's no
beautiful.
lie. My wife loves me. There we go.
Right. One more question for you, and
Yes, sir.
this came up in the chat. It's who had more interceptions during the 2005 year, you or Jason Phillips?
Oh, I want to say me. I want to say me. Being a nose guard, I had two interceptions that year. I
Yep.
had two. I had two interceptions this year. One against BYU on a screen, tilted with my left hand and caught it at Provo. I think Beck was the quarterback then. Then I also had one my last game ever to play at TCU. And the fun story about that is my wife actually called it the play right before I got it. She was like, "Z's gonna get an interception," and they all looked at her like, "You talking about the fat nose guard?" And
The big guy in the trenches.
well, yeah, I was able to go get it, and you know, those are those secret things. Being a student of the game, I got to be in the defensive coaches meetings, and when I was in school, and sitting there and being around those guys, and it's what our players do at Texas Tech, coming in being in those meetings, and you get to hear different things and different aspects of the game that's not going to be told in the whole game plan. When you are actually a part of the game plan, during that. that week, I heard, when we showed a certain blitz that they was going to look to the number 3 receiver and throw a hot if he blocked, and I was responsible for the running back, man on man, and he blocked, and I ran to the number 3 receiver. And just being a guy that's going to be, all in academically and just absorbing yourself as a student of the game, man. That's what's fun to get, as I'm starting to be the older guy in the profession and watching our guys do that. And our head coach preach it, our defensive coordinator tell them to having those young guys coming in there. And what you see is that you also helping them be a better player, but you also one day, showing them that love and that aspiration to be a coach, and then it keeps the generation going.
Well, that's awesome, coach. Well, look, we
Yes,
appreciate
sir.
your knowledge and everything that you've given to these coaches. I've got nothing but in a chat saying thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And we greatly appreciate you and just kind of spitting some of your game and some of the way you do things because you are very successful in what you do. So that's why
Mm,
we have you on here because we know that you're the best of the best. So again, we
man,
appreciate what you do and shining your knowledge shining your knowledge to us. And best of luck to you this upcoming year. I'm sorry you had to deal with Jason
man.
when you were there, but
No, I love it, man. That's my brother. I want to thank everybody that joined. Um, I want to be able to let you guys know that I want to be able to give my email. If you guys have any questions, I could be reached at Zarnell, Zarnell .Fitch, Fitch at ttu.edu. And, one of the things I appreciate your words and, um, man, me and my wife has been, we just greatly appreciate, the opportunity that we had again, starting off at, Taser High School, being under Gary Patterson and being under now unbelievable coach and Coach McGuire. We dreamed about this in a townhouse and in Dallas, and it was that townhouse was nothing to brag about. And my wife never once made me feel like we couldn't live this dream. And our boys, they're gonna go play. And I'm looking forward to this year. We're gonna take one day at a time, and we're just gonna just go 1-0 every day. And all I can tell you guys is thank you. Thank you for being an outlet to the high school coaches and coaches all over. And I mean, it's just a privilege to have me on, man. Really a joy to me and my wife. And I just want to say, man, wreck 'em.
awesome. Thank you, coach. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. You all have a blessed rest of your day. And, coach, safe travels out there on the road. We
Yes, sir.
appreciate you. And
No
thank you.
doubt.
Yeah. And
Thank you.
hopefully Jason doesn't bombard you with 100,000 questions after this.
Man, I love him. Anything for Jason Phillips.
Yep, he's the man for sure. Hey, and you know what? Honestly, I think I've got to watch you play whenever I lived in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, so you guys played Southern
Yes.
Miss a few times,
Oh, yeah.
and you came over where we were. We had season tickets, so I know I got to watch you play. So that's
Truly
definitely an
a
honor.
battle. Truly a
Yeah.
battle. Every time.
2003, that was definitely a battle. That was for sure.
Oh, truly a battle. Oh, yeah. We had to get them in 2004. We were all black for that game. I
Yes,
remember.
yes, you did, man.
Truly
You guys,
battles.
man, I still have nightmares about that game. But hey, you know what? You guys did it.
No doubt, man. Zach has been great. Thank you, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Coach. Have a blessed day. We'll see you guys. Thanks,
You
everyone.
too.